With the Fourth Commandment, we are transitioning to the second table of the Ten Commandments. The first table addresses our relationship with God. The second table addresses our relationship with people. This fits with Jesus' super short summary of God's law. Love God and love your neighbor. The Fourth Commandment protects God's representatives. We ultimately owe our obedience to God, but instead of dealing with us directly, God most often deals with us through representatives. When we honor and respect them, we honor and respect God. The Fourth Commandment specifically calls for us to honor and obey God's representatives in the home. Honor your father and mother. God has arranged the family so that the parents are in charge. There isn't supposed to be a power struggle between parents and children. God has assigned parents the role of authority over their children and responsibility for their children. God has assigned children the role of obedience and respect. In the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul comments on the Fourth Commandment. He says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." It's worth paying attention to some things he doesn't say here. He doesn't say, "Children, obey your parents only as long as you like their rules," or "Children, obey your parents as long as they are treating you fairly," or making good decisions, or even, "Children, obey your parents only as long as they are being good parents." No, it's simply, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right." And it's also necessary to notice that he doesn't just use the word obey. God also uses the word honor. To honor means to respect. So a child who grudgingly follows his parents' orders only because he doesn't want to get in trouble, or talks badly about them to their face or behind their backs, he still isn't obeying the Fourth Commandment because he's not respecting them. They are God's representatives, so by disrespecting them, he disrespects God. And if he respects and obeys them, he respects and obeys God. So like the Fourth Commandment itself, the explanation of the Fourth Commandment actually emphasizes the honor and respect that children owe their parents, even more than the obedience. If we fear and love God, we will honor and respect our parents. If we honor and respect our parents, we will obey them too. Actions can speak louder than words. The way children obey or disobey their parents reveals a whole lot about how much they do or don't respect them. The Fourth Commandment specifically addresses the honor that children owe their parents. But notice that the explanation takes the command a step further to include everyone in authority over us. It's right to do that because the Bible requires our respect and obedience not just to our parents, but to everyone in authority over us. So, who all is in authority over us? We can identify authority in three general areas of our lives. We've already talked about in the home. Children owe respect and obedience to their parents. God also says we owe respect and obedience to our government. Government includes not just police officers, but every government position that has been given authority over us. Examples are police officers, senators, and representatives in Congress, the President of the United States, our teachers in school. That should be enough to get the point across. Romans 13 talks about the obedience and respect we owe our government. Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. What's fascinating about this passage is that it was written to Christians who were living under a government that was wicked and even persecuted them. But Paul says that even the anti-Christian Roman government was established by God. It was God's representative, even though it was opposed to God. These Christians still owed their government their honor and obedience. In our age, when dishonoring government officials is commonplace, we need to remember that to dishonor our leaders is to dishonor the God who set them over us. So God has set people in authority over us in the home and in the government. Finally, He also commands us to honor and obey those in authority over us in the church. In the book of Hebrews, God talks about leaders in the church. He says, "Obey your leaders and submit to their authority. They keep watch over you as men who must give an account. Obey them so that their work will be a joy, not a burden, for that would be of no advantage to you." Pastors and other church leaders have also been set over us by God. They are responsible for our spiritual welfare. God will hold them accountable for their work. As God's representatives, we owe them our obedience and respect, even when we realize their imperfections and are sure that we could do a better job. We honor God and we benefit ourselves when we do all that we can to make their work a joy, not a burden. It's worth a moment to think about why God sets people in authority over us. Contrary to popular belief, it's not to make our lives as miserable and restricted as possible. It's for our good. People in authority over us are people who are responsible for us. They take care of us. Parents see to our physical and spiritual welfare. The government sees to our physical welfare. Leaders in the church see to our spiritual welfare. It's easy for us to see their faults, but even when they do a poor job and prove themselves to be just as sinful as we are, that is an opportunity to trust that God will take care of us in spite of their shortcomings. Our job is to obey and respect. God will see to it that we are taken care of as we do our job. The Bible does give us one exception to this. It gives us one instance in which we should disobey people in authority over us. That is when they tell us to do something that is contrary to God's command. Before Jesus ascended into heaven, He gave His disciples the command to go into all the world and preach the good news to all creation. However, after Jesus ascended, when they were preaching about Jesus in Jerusalem, the same Jewish leaders that had Jesus killed, the Sanhedrin, put the apostles in prison. Then they ordered the apostles to stop preaching about Jesus. Having brought the apostles, they made them appear before the Sanhedrin to be questioned by the high priest. "We gave you strict orders not to teach in this name," he said, "yet you have filled Jerusalem with your teaching and are determined to make us guilty of this man's blood." Peter and the other apostles replied, "We must obey God rather than men." If someone in authority over us tells us to do something contrary to God's word, we must obey God rather than men. We must disobey them. Now that doesn't completely set the Fourth Commandment aside or give us the leeway to disobey everything they say, but only the parts that are contrary to God's word. We still owe them our honor and submission and obedience in everything that doesn't require disobedience to God. So the Fourth Commandment protects God's representatives. God institutes authority over us for our good. We obey the Fourth Commandment when we honor and obey the authorities God places over us in the home, in the government, and in the church, even when they fall short of being perfect leaders or even good leaders. If they don't take care of us, God will see to it Himself.